Today on Conversations Aloud, we are discussing Iran, how narrative, symbolism, and media framing shape the way these conflicts are understood both inside and outside Iran. We're joined by Amir Hussain Tahiri, who is an Iranian living in Canada. He is the author of the novel Alice in Mullah Land, which is a surreal political fable about authority and belief, inheritance and identity, and the dangerous act of awakening. Welcome to the show, Amir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. So, there's a lot going on in Iran right now, and depending on what news you're watching, it's a different situation. But I've been speaking to a lot of Iranians, and usually they fall into three categories. One, they might be they actually support the Iranian government. Two, they don't support the Iranian government, but they don't want foreign intervention. And three, they don't support the Iranian government and they feel that the only way to remove the government is through foreign intervention. I understand that you're kind of on the third kind of group. So I think what would be great to hear, first of all, is how do you see the situation right now in Iran? It looks devastating, but how do you see the situation currently?
Yeah, sure. Actually, you are right. I'm in third group, but it was a long journey for me to become part of the third group. I used to be supporting the reforms for like 25 years ago when President Khatami came to power, but the regime blocked that path. And then I was supporting people who went to the street to try to change the regime or bring the change, but by protesting, and the regime just again cracked on brutally. So it was a long journey for me to come to this, camp of the ones that supporting the war, because I even as I know many fellow Iranians from Iran, they don't even like to call it war because they don't want this to cause global intervention to stop it. But whatever we call it, war or liberation or efforts or whatever, it's the right war. It's the only solution. It seems it's the only solution because the regime is, acting. It's not a normal regime. It's not a regime that wants to bring, work on economy, to improve economy, to improve the life of people. That's not their mission. The mission of that regime is ideology. It's the end of the world ideology, eschatology, basically. And that idea, you cannot change it. There's nothing going to stop them from going when they think that they're having a sacred mission. There's no way to stop them, and that's why I think that this is the only solution.
For a lot of people, I mean, it's clear that the economic situation in Iran is very bad, and you might say there's corruption, and obviously the regime has brutally kind of stopped a lot of things happen. A lot of people contribute that to the economic sanctions. The economic sanctions that the U.S. imposed. They've imposed it since 1979. It's a very long time that these U.S. sanctions have been on. And U.S. sanctions, I mean, for anyone watching, is essentially Iran is unable to really sell its oil at the right price. It has to do it kind of secretly. But at the same time, they can't import a lot of things, including medicine in a lot of instances. The Americans did the same thing in Iraq. And that kills thousands and thousands of people. Do you not attribute the economic situation to the U.S. sanctions, which have been applied since 1979?
U.S. sanction is playing very minor role. There is more corruption and problem inside. Look, if there is no, if the money that they spend on the proxies to unstable the region, like Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, and before all the problem they caused in Syria, there were money that could have been invested for to better the life of Iranian. So it's not only the sanction. There are lots of problems inside, mismanagement. These people, as I said, they had no experience when they came to power. They had no experience. They just uh, put aside or killed or executed all the technocrats from the previous regime, and then they started from the beginning a bunch of revolutionary without any experience. They started managing, and then when they gained some experience, those experienced one became reformists, and then the hardcore of the regime put them aside. So there was never proper group of people, the right technocrats that they can manage the economy were in the power. So sanctions is just excuse to me. And another important point, why we should be in the war with America in the first place, to have the to invite those sanctions. I don't see why Islamic Republic should hold the flag for the anti-imperialism war and let their people suffering. Why another? And there, I know that there are many Muslims around the world supporting that regime, as they see them as protector of Muslims. But in reality, this is not right. If you look at this situation closely, last 47 years, Islamic Republic involved in too many conflicts in first Iran-Iraq war, then in all those countries, as I said, Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq after the war. And the number of Muslims that killed by the hand of this regime, I think there is no, and I actually, there was someone from UK, previous intelligence minister, I heard in an interview, he said that if you put all the other organizations that killed Muslims in the recent history, it altogether is not, uh, it is still less than the number of the regime killed. Now, you might look, Iran-Iraq war, couple of million, two sides Muslims,
Yes, but just
right? And then look at the
yeah, just
others.
on that, because you said basically why is the U.S. and Iran at war, and it's a good question. A lot of people will see that the reality is that the U.S. kind of began this by doing the coup that removed the democratically elected prime minister in 1953, installing the Shah. This
That narrative is challenged now. That narrative is
in what
not,
way?
definitely US had hand on that, but more recent history, if there are many historians now, they are working on that, and the new facts coming that actually people were tired of Mossadegh, even though he was, because he really so obsessed with that, his own image as someone who is fighting the British imperialism at the time and kicked them out of the country. He completely left aside to, okay, what's the solution now? UK won, left the country, and they came back with too many offers, decent offers for the time, that okay, let's come back and do a deal. And the same as what at the time Saudi had with the US 50-50, if I remember correctly, for the oil. But any offer that came back, he refused, and the economy started going down. There was no money, oil production stopped, and people just get tired from that. And there was definitely US helped that, and the British as well, Britain and the US helped that coup, but it was more than 50% Iranian people. Now, this new narratives that coming out, more people doing research on the history. So, but it's still okay. Yeah, we would say that the US had a hand in it.
When you have like something that's organic versus something that's a foreign intervention, because the US is known for coups. They've done this all across the world. So when you have a foreign intervention, doing a coup, installing the Shah, CIA trained Savak, and then the Iraq-Iran war, that was kind of initiated by Saddam with support from the US. And
Well, you actually no, US in fact sell ours to both sides.
in
In
the end,
fact, in that
in the
war,
end, they sent to Iran. But at the beginning, it was the Gulf states and Iraq and the US and the Western.
mostly European and Russia support, in fact. In that war, US, if interestingly, that's a good point. You would think then why Iran, this regime, Islamic Republic, built a very good relationship with Russia. And talking about history, Russia, any country, if US intervene in that coup, but look at it just 50, 60 years before that and see what Russia did. Russia actually separated several countries from northern border of Iran during the Qajar dynasty. So how come the regime, if that's the if the point is that there's a historical problem with the country, Russia is the biggest. But look, they are the friend. So it's not really about that. It's just they wanted to, because even in the constitution of the Islamic Republic, the 12th Imam, which supposedly is the one who's coming back for the end of the war, he is the head of the state formally.
I guess from an Iranian perspective too, from when I speak to people, they see it also that the US has said that they're going to attack Iran for a very long time. And, they attacked Afghanistan, Iran's neighbor to the right. Then they attacked Iraq, Iran's neighbor to the left. And then they said they're going to attack Iran. So Iran's kind of preparing for this attack for a very long time, especially that America has said themselves they want to attack Iran. I think the issue, I guess, the way I see it is that the more America attacks Iran, and we've seen kind of what America does in the Middle East, breakdown of countries. Look at Syria. There's no more Syria anymore. It's like different people have different places. Look at Libya, Iraq. That there was a civil war that happened. It's just each country that America intervenes in is devastation, chaos, and that's what I fear about the situation in Iran. Is that the aim isn't for Iran to be a strong country. The aim is for a disintegration of society, a civil war whereby people fight on assets, on ethnicity groups. That's the scary thing for a lot of people too.
I don't think the aim is that. The aim is definitely not. They are not there for Iranian people. No, I'm not delusional. I know that it's not that it's not for Iranian people, and they are not coming to free Iranian people. It might just happen that their what is the right for them for their benefits is just aligned with Iranian in this case. But no, but the aim is also not. There is. I don't see any reason that the U.S. benefit from the civil war in Iran. Stable Iran is, and even not Israel. Stable Iran is good for the whole region, and I think that everyone are aligned on that, and that's because we we ha- we didn't have civil war in Iran, but Iran caused a lot of civil war elsewhere. In fact, some of the examples that you gave, like Syria and Iraq, Iran had his hands in that. There's a regime. I don't. I really try not to say Iran because I want to say Islamic Republic because Iranian they're not representing Iranian people, definitely not the majority. But the regime had their hands in all of those. And by the way, Iraq it was a chaos, and it took a long time. But now Iraq is in a better place after all compared to Saddam. And yeah, I know it was a painful journey, but they are and I'm sure that you talk to Iraqi people. I have Iraqi people around here, and they all said that, yeah, it was painful, but now finally they're in better place. And part of it maybe because the Islamic Republic started become weakening last few years. That might have some role in it because they didn't help. And in Syria, we know that they caused the civil war. That Soleimani, the so-called general, that they killed him, he definitely had his hands in the civil war in Syria. There's no doubt of that.
Everyone had their hand in the Syrian war. I would say. I mean, even the Americans were supporting these very extremist organizations that later on formed ISIS, just because they're against Bashar al-Assad, which even though he of course was brutal, the US also support these very extremist organizations. They supported Al Qaeda, for example, against the Russians in Afghanistan, and it kind of backfires. And so, even if they're extremist organizations, Americans seem to not care as long as it meets these kind of short term objectives. And then the blowback of that usually happens on the people itself. I mean, ISIS was formed after the invasion of Iraq and the whole thing, Syria, and who's in power in Syria right now? It's ex-ISIS member. That guy went to the White House. It's just insane. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Well, I mean, I know he was part of the ISIS and then another different extremist group that Tahrir Sham or whatever they call it. But if he decided to go for, and I don't know if he really genuinely is going to do that. I hope he's really going for the right path now. But if he does that, that's fine. I don't care. I mean, and for the Iran the same. Who cares about the past? If he does something good for Syria now, if he really can deliver, and if he really, after a couple of years, and if things stabilize, allow a real free election, okay, fine. But we don't know yet. I agree. It's unknown.
Looking at Ali Khamenei, many outsiders see him as kind of a central hardliner, but within the, I guess, clerical establishment, is he actually more pragmatic compared to the others around him? Because it seems like the people around him are a lot more hardline than he is. Do you see this the same thing?
Right. Yes. Actually, Khamenei, when he was selected or elected by the that council that elect the supreme leader, many people were happy when he was elected. They thought that he's going to be, he was a kind of intellectual mullah, let's say, if that's the right word to put it. And he was into poem and things like that. But he changed because the power is corrupting. When there is a power, unchecked power, corrupt anyone. And he probably corrupted. But that was one narrative at the time that he was the right person, but then the power corrupted him
Because
and he became
apparently
hardliner. And then
he didn't even want it. Is that right?
that's what he said in that the famous video. And then Rafsanjani, he didn't. He said, "No, I'm not the right person." In that Iranian culture, he was like a tarof. If you heard that in the Iranian culture, when someone offer you something, you say, "Oh no, no," but you really want
Okay.
it. That's exactly part of the culture, and probably that was the what he did. But I think that he was in his mind, he was planning all of this. He knew what he's doing. He's the one who actually, when he was in jail, before in prison, before revolution, he translated Sayyid Qutb of the ideologist of the Muslim Brotherhood, and he has, and what the way that he managed the country is very similar to the system of the how Muslim Brotherhood ideology works, even though they're Sunni and these are Shia, but there are certain elements that they are very similar in that, and especially when it comes to jihad and anti, Western America. So, yeah, but still, I agree. There are more people who even have more, hardliner than him in the system. But one would think, and people in Iran came to conclusion, for them there's no difference anymore. There's you pass this certain level. If you are deep under the water, it doesn't matter really how deep you are. If Khamenei is in power or someone a little bit more, strict than him or hardliner than him, it doesn't make a big difference. But now they elected obviously his son, which again back to that eschatology that we can discuss later. That there are a lot of things about that because he is one of the three characters that is famous. There are Khorasani, Yamani, and Sofyani that they are coming into just at the end of the time, and each of them playing a role to bring Mahdi back. And this guy is Khorasani, and he was born in Mashhad in Khorasan as well. And they create all this narrative around him to rally their supporters around this guy and keep, fighting to the end. Because again, the ideology is the only way that these people can just resist and stay. And security forces in the street now, because they stop people and they're harassing people even now during the war. And the drones just hit some of them recently. Who is doing that? Just for what? The only thing that can drive the driving force is just ideology. Even the money is coming to the end now. There is no money left basically soon, but these guys still keep going.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is that, you know, when you're being attacked, your ideology the ideology becomes a bit stronger, especially if the ideology has always been saying they are the problem. Like the foreign the intervention, the U.S. imperial system is the one that's breaking our country, and then the U.S. empire starts attacking the country. It's like there's the proof. That's what we've been saying for a long time, and so now there is more kind of proof that we have to take these even more drastic action now than before, even more what a lot of people will consider brutal actions than before, because we are in a war situation, we're being attacked, and therefore it seems to me that there's going to be now more power to the IRGC than before. Do you not see that, or do you see it differently?
Yeah, that's true. It definitely they are more aggressive. But again, that's the same metaphor I gave you. When you're under the water, it doesn't matter. They already killed thousands. I don't know what else they can do worse than this. For people, if they don't see the majority of population, people coming out and asking for a change. So if they don't see that and they just listen to all the narratives of the regime and all those, again, end of the time, and yeah, the US is the enemy, and the US is here to stop, and Israel is here to stop Mahdi. By the way, Mahdi is supposed to go to Jerusalem, and that's the place that he's going to start his mission. So you can see all these are connected, and that's all the way that they are thinking all these years that they said that we are going to, destroy Israel and, dead to America. Well, that they have it coming. If you do, they put the flag of the US. I remember when I was going to school, they put it in so we can just walk over it. So, you know, these are, from the time that I was in primary school, just 6 years old, I remember before we go into the classes, they just line us up and start with dead to America, dead to England, dead to even at that time was Russia was at the beginning of the revolution, Soviet Union, we would say dead to Soviet Union as well. That changed then later, Soviet Union, and then later Russia became a friend suddenly. But at the beginning, it was dead to everyone, basically.
You mentioned three things there. What were they?
Yeah, there are three characters: Khorasani, Yemani, and Sofiani. Khorasani is the supporter of Mahdi. He is supposed to prepare the scene so everything is ready for Mahdi to come.
Who's Mahdi?
Mahdi is the 12th Imam of Shia that they believe he has like a messianic figure. They believe that he will come back. He hid by God somewhere, and he will come back at the end of the time to clean the earth and make everything pure and things like that.
As part of that, they believe that Jesus will also come back
With
with
him,
him.
yes, they have very similar. Yes, exactly. They believe that Jesus come back as part of his army. Of course, it's different from the Christian, because Christians have their own eschatology, as we know. It's a little bit different, but it also play a little bit role in the other side of this conflict, because we know that they believe that Israel play a role in the end of time and all those things. But I don't see that as the major drivers force, because at least the US is not a country that is based on the. I know that there are many Christian religious in the US, but the constitution is not based on religious. But in Iran is. So in Iran, this play more important role and really is a driver force. So yeah, Khorasani is that character.
Just before we go in there a bit deeper, a lot of people are now starting to believe that there are religious drivers to this war. I don't know if you saw um, the complaints that a lot of people in the military, the U.S. military, were saying that they basically complained that their commanders were telling them that this war now in the Middle East is to bring about Armageddon and to bring about the return of Jesus. And so you say that there is no religious drivers in the US, but every day it seems like religion is actually playing, which is very surprising because obviously America is a secular country. There's a constitution. It's not like a religious kind of country, but this whole kind of, we've heard a lot about the Christian Zionists and evangelical Christians. They seem to be playing a bigger part in the foreign policy, at least, of America, and we're seeing it play out with, for example, the U.S. ambassador in Israel saying, about Israel is chosen people and they're allowed to have an expanded area, and then now the military is basically saying this is to bring about Jesus. So there seems to be also a religious driver there.
There is, and I'm not denying that, but I'm saying that it's not the main. I don't think. I mean, I cannot. I'm not sure about that if it's a driver force of the war. I don't think so. It plays a role, but it's not like the commanders of the army or the commander in chief. The Trump also, I know he's a probably religious person as well, I guess, but it's not their driver's force. But in the Iran side is definitely the driver's force. It's
Yeah.
very important because the leader, everyone, and as I said, the Mojtaba Khamenei, the new elected leader, which we don't know if it's even he's even alive or not. He's that Khorasani figure, and it's very important figure that he's supposed to, uh, you know, make the scene ready
So,
for
so
Mahdi to
why do
come
you
back.
say that he's the Khorasani figure? What makes you say that?
Okay, that's the narrative that the regime was building around him, because there are a lot of, in this eschatology, there are a lot of prediction that seems to match. First of all, he was born in Khorasan, in Mashhad, in the center of Khorasan. So that's one of the prediction. If based on those prediction, he's supposed to go to Iraq and to Syria, and to involve in the cleaning those area. And he went. He went to Iran-Iraq war, and he went to Iraq again with the Soleimani after the war as part of the building their militia there. He went to Syria as well during the just conflict 10, 15 years ago. So they were, I would say, that probably grooming him, or that to just make sure that he fits all those predictions. And even they're saying that he will get injured by the, and this exact what happened now. This is part of the whole eschatology that they build up. I don't know. It's probably I don't know if it's a probably, because there's some like it's a 1,000 years probably narrative that is built up, but they changed it recently. And I would say, when I say they, mostly the regime, last 20, 30 years, they're let's say public relation, if that's the right word, the ones that were just building this narrative, they just made sure that everything fits the whole, all the predictions that are around this Khorasani, it fits. And they even, as I said, there are two other characters that you we talk about. One of them, Sofyani, is the one who is going to oppose Khorasani because he's against Mahdi, and he's a Sunni Muslim, and he's coming from Syria. And guess who is he? Is Ahmad al-Shah. Yes.
Okay.
So see,
So it's the
everything
president of
is
Syria right
fitting this.
now. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the third character that also you will see, Yemani, coming from Yemen, he is supporting Khorasani. Who do we have in Yemen? The leader of the Houthis, he is Yemani. So you see, they build this narrative, and this is what they feed their supporters. And they really believe, there are many of them are really believing in this. And then again, he's supposed to go to Jerusalem at the end and prepare, coming of Mahdi there. Everything fits. That's why they're all against Israel.
So there's like basically three prophecies clashing together. There's the Iranian prophecy, which you just described. Then there is the kind of Christian prophecy of there needs to be Armageddon for Jesus to return. It needs to happen in the Middle East, in kind of the area of Israel, Palestine. And then there's the Jewish prophecy, which is also kind of Armageddon, but the third temple will be built where the Aqsa Mosque is. And so there's these three clashes. Everyone's kind of believing in obviously their own prophecy. And to me, it seems like these are all drivers that's causing this to happen. It's hard to say it's all a coincidence that all those three believe in kind of this war, and this war is happening right now. It seems like these are the things that's driving it.
There could, I mean, yeah, there are definitely elements of that. It's a little bit too, I wouldn't go that far to say that definitely drives the whole conflict, because there are a lot of other, economy, politics, and too many other factors playing a role that we cannot dismiss those factors. But definitely this eschatology play a big role, as because from all involved parties, they have their own, eschatology, and the narratives of the Israel and the US are closer, obviously, to each other, and opposing the one of the Shia Islam. So yeah, and that's dangerous really, because when things the war like this, which is impacting the overall global economy, oil price and food price and everything, is having some eschatology behind it, which means that there's less control, and there's less restraint. Because when there's, if the war is purely about policy and economy, uh, there are hope that at the end you can come to senses and do something about it. But if there is scatology behind it, it makes it really more dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, some people will say that that's excluding proxy kind of wars. It's really Israel and the U.S. who initiated this attack. They're the one that's kind of driving the scenes that we're seeing, and so it's them who hold the plan. Maybe not now anymore, given the what Iran is doing, but in terms of who started it, it seems like it is Israel and the U.S.
Well, if you, again, if you just we don't talk about Iran is sending money and arming Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis, and all of this for years, and they are killing Israeli people. It doesn't to me it's the same thing as direct attack, because if Iran wouldn't, if again I just keep forgetting, if Islamic Republic didn't do that support, didn't send all those money and missiles and rockets, where giving, it's so irresponsible to give or sell. I don't know if they just give them up or just get money. I don't think that they take any money from the Houthis or Hamas or anywhere else. So they give them up. But it's so irresponsible to just give the ballistic missiles to those terrorist actors like Houthis. Hamas, to me, I don't see Hamas as freedom fighter. To me, Hamas is terrorism, and I give all the right for Palestinian people. It's a different, and I think Hamas is not helping their cause. That's and Islamic Republic. I think that in fact, if Islamic Republic was not in the power, Palestinians were in a better shape today, and there was hope for some stable and peaceful, even maybe two states. But that's a different story.
I think there will always be a resistance to an occupation. Obviously, we can discuss the method of that resistance is, extreme and incorrect and bad, but there's always going to be resistance to any kind of occupation. And like, you bring, for example, Hezbollah. Hezbollah wasn't there before the invasion of Lebanon by Israel. They only got created after Israel invaded Lebanon, and there was a group that resisted. And yeah, it was supported by Iran. I remember being in Lebanon actually, and seeing the um, Syrian tanks everywhere. But then they left Lebanon after that. So, it's the same thing what the U.S. does. The U.S. also supports all types of groups all around the world, not just kind of in their region, but all across the world. Um, you know, I guess one of the themes of what we see is how conflicts are framed. In the West, Iran is always kind of portrayed almost exclusively through the lens of like nuclear ambitions and regional militancy. What does that framing miss about Iranian society?
Well, is that framing miss the majority of Iranian people, and because we know that majority of Iranian people against all of those. The cost that they pay for that nuclear, uh, you know, uranium enrichment and everything, that all different plants that the regime built around that, the Iranian people pay that cost, and no one asked them if you want this or not, and they didn't want this. They thought that there are many other technology and many other way to improve the economy and build or become a just go after other technology to become a better, have a better economy, become stronger country. You didn't need to have nuclear power. So no, Iranian definitely it's wrong. I mean, it's just that framing is just around the regime, putting the whole Iranian community or majority of Iranian community aside, and didn't bring it to into the picture. And one of the complaints that most of Iranian always have is that when we want to travel somewhere in the Western countries, there are too many restrictions for us, but many other Muslim countries that, in fact, their population are really against the U.S., but the government has a good relationship with the U.S. They can easily just get the visa and go. But us Iranian who have no problem with the West, we are okay. We just don't want to cause any problem. We cannot go because we always framed with the regime, and that was one of the really big and painful experience for everyone, and including myself when I wanted to leave Iran for the first time and get my visa. And we all experienced when I first time I wanted to travel to the US, they stop me in this airport, they take me for extra questioning, and we all experienced that. And it's humiliating for us, and we never liked that to be the same. It put us in the same frame as the regime.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. One criticism of the anti-regime movement is that you could say they're united in the opposition, but divided on what should replace the current system. Is there
That's
really a
true.
credible alternative political vision for Iran right now?
Yeah, well, that division was bigger before, and it finally comes to a little bit more unity now. Because I remember from the time that when I was in UK, when the rigged election of Ahmadinejad, it was 2009, I think, that election that people came to street, one of when the first big protest in Iran. When we went in front of the embassy to protest, I remember the small group of people, they were monarchists, but they were separate, very small group, and the rest were the other side, and we were all protesting and things like that. Then I moved to Canada, and then the protests continue for different reasons. And every time I was going out, I would see that that small group of monarchy become bigger and bigger. And until this time, for the first time, everyone joined with that monarchies, and they decided, you know what? And I was one of them. I was one of the people who was for republic and not for constitutional monarchy or any type of monarchy. Uh, but I changed my mind. And in fact, now before I'm even saying that I changed my mind, the thing is that many people now that are, because now everyone are going around with the monarchies in the same life. We are all together. Many of us are not necessarily supporting the monarchy, but we just accepting the Reza Pahlavi, the crown prince role as for the transition. And we believe that he's going to do a referendum to see if we're going to have republic or we are going to have a constitutional monarchy. So, but at least it seems that majority of people still is. I wouldn't say everyone because you can never get even in any of the democratic countries you can never get more than 60%. It's always around 55, 50, 45 or something like that. But I would say right now in Iranian community definitely more than 60% are supporting Reza Pahlavi as that role. Now if there's going to be a referendum after that, which he's claiming is going to be, and I hope there's going to be, then everyone has a vote, and we will see what's the result. And these are all again, if we can pass and this most important stage, which is to get rid of the regime. So right now that division is much less, but you're right, it was there for years. Still, there are some groups that are not supporting Reza Pahlavi, but more and more are coming to his camp now. At least again, as the leader of a transition period, and not necessarily the future king.
Uh, is that because there isn't really any other more prominent figure to lead that people are just kind of thinking he's kind of semi-famous, he has a history linked to Iran, therefore he's kind of really the only counter movement.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the reason exactly. I mean, usually a new figure emerge in the revolutions from within. So far, nothing happened, especially because the way that regime cracking down, and there is no party, there's nothing really. There's no political system or party that can produce the new leader, because at the time of the Shah, the previous king, there was still parties, there was still some activities, and those group nationalists were there. There was left, different groups in the left. There was Islamists. They could be, they were all active, and they could produce leaders. But in this system, in the Islamic Republic, there's no voice really. They don't allow any voice to come out from within, which was probably ideal situation for many years. But when there is not such a voice, and seems that to me that Reza Pahlavi is the reasonable, figure, even though I was not supporting him for years, but I changed my mind and I decided, if we want to go through this, we need to just uh, agree that someone should lead this, and it seems that he is the right person. He's the only person I would think, and there's no alternative. I don't see any alternative right now.
Yeah. Um, just regarding the eschatology, is there anything that maybe we've missed touching on regarding that you want to point towards?
No, I mean the only thing I would say, the reason that they, even though there's some reports that he might have killed or have been killed or very badly injured, Mojtaba Khamenei, still they elected him. That's aligned with this eschatology. They just want to keep the supporters aligned with this narrative, because if they select anyone else, it's going to be end of that. Because for years they were saying that this guy is Khorasani. Even that Soleimani, when he came back once from Syria, and he when he wanted to go see Khamenei to just give reports or things, usually this guy, his son Mushtaba, was playing a role of like his admin. He was the guy who was just arranging his affair of his father. Basically, he needs to go see him first, and Mushtaba Khamenei wanted to kiss his head, but he didn't allow, and he kissed Soleimani kissed his head and kind of giving the signal that you are the next, you are the Khorasani. So he's a very important figure, and they groom him, that they cannot announce him dead, even if he's dead, and they have to keep him alive. So that's a very important sign again, that why this is important for the regime to keep his name at least there, even though there is no picture, there's no face, even he didn't speak. He just sent a message somehow, and they just read that message. No one saw him or heard him since they announced him. That's so unusual. He become a new supreme leader of 90 million people. Supposedly, he cannot even drive. Okay, you for your security, you need to hide somewhere. But you can. His father was hidden, was hiding for 6, 7 months since the 12 days war. But from time to time, it came up or he sent a message. Why can't he do that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they did say that he's injured, but we just don't know how badly injured he is, and
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll find out very soon. Amir, thank you so much for today. Is there anything else that maybe we didn't touch on that you wanted to touch on?
The most important one was that the last question they put forward about the framing Iran as the regime, and how important is just to not forget that Iranian people and be their voice, because they are actually the ones that are in the ground. They're the ones that are being impacted the most on this of the political decision being made on on the highest level. But those are the people who pay the cost, and they want just a simple life that like any other people of any other countries want. They wanted, dignity, freedom to shape their future, and we shouldn't forget that. That's the most important thing. I think that no one should forget among this, all the chaos that's happening right now.
Sure. Amir, thank you so much.
Thank you.